Ana de Armas felt jealous of Sandra Bullock, but Keanu Reeves' gentle words changed everything. The night began with bright lights and endless voices. The film festival was full of laughter, cameras, and whispers that carried the names of stars across the room. Ana de Armas walked into the hall with her heart racing faster than the clicking shutters of the photographers. She wore a smile on her face, but inside she felt heavy. Her eyes kept drifting toward Sandra Bullock, who stood across the red carpet, radiant and warm, her presence drawing everyone near. Sandra's laughter echoed like music, and the crowd seemed to gather closer to her, leaving Ana feeling smaller in the space that was meant to celebrate both of them. From the outside, Ana looked perfect. Her dress shimmered in the light and her calm pose fooled the cameras. But deep inside, she carried a silent storm. She could not stop comparing herself to Sandra. She admired her, respected her, but she also felt something sharp, a feeling that she was not enough, that she would always stand in someone else's shadow. The thought made her chest tighten, and even her smile began to feel forced. As the evening went on, her mind grew louder. Every time Sandra spoke, people leaned in closer. Every time Sandra laughed, the whole room seemed to follow. Ana told herself it was not jealousy, just pressure. But then she caught herself staring at Sandra too long, wondering why she could not draw the same warmth, why she did not shine in the same effortless way. It hurt more than she wanted to admit. Then, through the noise and the flashes of light, she noticed Keanu Reeves. He was not standing in the spotlight like the others. He was on the side, speaking gently with a stagehand, helping move a small piece of equipment out of the way so no one would trip. He looked calm, almost invisible in the chaos, yet more powerful than anyone else in the room. When he finally stepped forward, his presence did not shout, it whispered. People noticed not because he demanded it, but because his humility carried its own weight. Ana's eyes met his for a brief moment. She tried to look away, but Keanu walked toward her with a soft smile. There was no judgment in his eyes, no trace of the pressure she felt from others. He greeted her as if the noise around them did not exist. His voice was quiet, almost like he was speaking only to her. "You look like you're carrying too much tonight," he said softly. Those words stopped her. It was as if he had looked straight into her heart and seen what no one else could. She wanted to deny it, to hide behind her smile, but her throat felt tight. "I'm fine," she whispered, but even she could hear the weakness in her own voice. Keanu tilted his head slightly, his expression calm. "You don't need to be fine all the time. Sometimes being real is stronger than pretending." The world around them seemed to fade for a moment. The music, the voices, even the flashing lights felt distant. Ana felt her chest loosen, as if someone had lifted a weight she had carried alone. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw Sandra again, surrounded by people, laughing as if nothing in the world could touch her. The storm inside Ana returned, sharp and restless. She wondered if Keanu noticed the way she kept glancing toward Sandra. She wondered if he could feel the silent war inside her. Her heart pounded with embarrassment, but before she could speak, Keanu's voice came again, calm and gentle. "You think you need to be someone else to be enough," he said, his eyes steady on hers. "But what makes you shine is not what others see, it's what you carry inside." The words sank into her like water reaching dry ground. For a moment she wanted to believe him, but part of her resisted, part of her still felt trapped by the comparison she could not stop making. As she stood there, caught between doubt and hope, the night began to take a turn she never expected. A turn that would reveal truths she was not ready to face, and choices that would test the strength of her heart. The storm behind the smile, the night did not slow down. The red carpet led into the wide hall, where tables were set with gold lights and endless glasses of sparkling wine. The music filled every corner, blending with laughter and voices that rose higher with every new group that entered. Ana sat at her table, her hands resting stiffly on her lap, but her mind refused to rest. She could still feel Keanu's words in her chest, like a soft echo, yet her eyes betrayed her as they wandered across the room. Sandra was only a few tables away, her presence like a quiet flame that drew everyone close. People leaned over each other just to hear her stories, and when she smiled, it felt as if the whole place lit brighter. Ana told herself not to look, not to compare, but her heart ached with every cheer and every laugh. She remembered the way reporters earlier had praised Sandra's kindness, her years of success, her reputation. And she wondered if anyone really saw her, Ana, as more than just a face in passing, a name whispered for a moment before being forgotten. She took a sip of water to calm herself, but her chest stayed tight. Then, as if fate itself was playing a cruel game, Sandra rose from her table. She moved through the crowd with the ease of someone who belonged everywhere. Her eyes fell on Keanu and she walked toward him. Anna felt her stomach twist. The two greeted each other warmly, their smiles gentle but real. Keanu's laughter was soft, almost hidden, yet it was there. Sandra touched his arm lightly, and they spoke as though they had known each other forever. The sight made something inside Anna burn. She hated the feeling, but she could not stop it. It was not just jealousy, it was fear. Fear that she would always remain unnoticed. That kindness like Sandra's would always outshine her own efforts. That even Keanu, who had spoken words that touched her heart, would find someone else's light more comforting. Anna looked away quickly, her breath uneven. She wanted to escape the noise, to find a place where her thoughts would not betray her. She rose from her seat and moved toward the side doors, away from the laughter. Outside, the cool night air brushed against her skin. The city lights blinked in the distance, but here it was quieter, softer. She wrapped her arms around herself, her thoughts loud enough to fill the silence. But then, footsteps followed. She turned, half expecting to see a stranger, but it was Keanu. He stepped out slowly, his expression calm, his presence carrying the same quiet strength as before. "You left so quickly," he said gently. Anna tried to smile, but her voice betrayed her. "I just needed air." Keanu nodded, walking closer but not too close, giving her space. "Air helps, but sometimes it's not the air we're running from. It's the thoughts." She froze, her throat tightening. He was right. For a long moment, she stayed silent. The wind moved softly between them, carrying the distant sounds of the festival inside. She wanted to speak, but feared that if she did, her heart would spill too much. Finally, the words broke free. "Everyone loves her," she whispered. "She doesn't even try. She just walks into a room and everything changes. People see her. They feel her. I don't have that. No matter what I do, I don't have it." Her voice shook, and she hated how weak it sounded. But Keanu did not look away. He listened, his eyes steady, his silence holding more comfort than words could. "You think her light takes away yours," he said softly. "But the truth is her light is hers and yours is yours. They're not meant to be the same." Anna felt her chest ache. "But what if mine isn't enough? What if it never is?" Keanu's gaze deepened, his voice even quieter now. "Enough for who? The crowd, the voices, or for yourself?" The question struck her harder than she expected. Her breath caught and she turned away, staring at the city lights. She wanted to answer, but she realized she did not know. She had spent so much time chasing the approval of others, measuring herself against people like Sandra, that she had never asked herself if she even felt whole inside. Before she could reply, the sound of the door behind them opened. Sandra stepped out, her laughter fading as she noticed the two standing together. Her smile softened, and she walked closer, her eyes kind but unreadable. "Are you two hiding from the party?" Sandra asked, her voice light. Anna froze, unsure how to respond. She felt exposed, as if Sandra had walked straight into her storm. Keanu gave a small smile. "Sometimes the quiet is better than the noise." Sandra nodded, her eyes shifting between them. For a moment the silence stretched, heavy with something unspoken. Then Sandra turned her gaze on Anna, her expression surprisingly gentle. "You did really well tonight," she said softly. "I know how overwhelming these nights can be, but you handled it with grace." The words shocked Anna. She did not expect kindness, not from the woman she had silently envied all night. Her chest tightened again, but this time for a different reason. She whispered almost too softly, "Thank you." But inside, her thoughts spun faster. Why did Sandra have to be kind? Why did it hurt more to be comforted than ignored? And why, when she looked at Keanu, did she feel that something much bigger was about to unfold? Something that would test all of them in ways none were ready for. The night was not over. The true storm had only begun. The breaking point, the night air wrapped around them, but the silence between Anna, Keanu, and Sandra grew heavier with every second. Sandra's words of kindness still echoed in Anna's mind, but instead of soothing her, they twisted deeper. She wanted to believe Sandra was being genuine, yet part of her heart whispered another story. That kindness from the woman she envied felt like a mirror, reflecting her own insecurities back at her. Anna forced a smile, but her chest tightened. She could not stop the thoughts racing through her. She wondered if Sandra truly meant her words, or if they were just polite phrases, the kind people said when they had nothing else to offer. The jealousy she had tried so hard to hide began to spill over. Sandra looked at her closely, noticing the stiffness in her smile. "Anna, are you all right?" she asked gently. Anna wanted to nod, to brush it off, but the storm inside her would not stay quiet. Her voice broke before she could control it. "Why does everyone love you so easily?" The question came out sharper than she intended, her own ears hearing the edge of bitterness. Sandra's eyes widened slightly, not in anger but in surprise. Keanu's gaze shifted toward Anna, calm but serious, as though he had been expecting this moment all along. The silence stretched. Anna wished she could pull the words back, but they were already out, floating in the cold night air like a secret she could never hide again. Sandra did not answer right away. She took a slow breath, her face unreadable. Then instead of defending herself, she said quietly, "Is that what you believe? That people love me more than you?" Anna's throat burned. She felt exposed, fragile, but the truth spilled out in pieces. When you walk into a room, everyone turns to you. They laugh with you, they look at you like you're untouchable. And me? I'm just there, always second, always less. Her voice cracked at the end, her eyes shining, though she tried to hold the tears back. Keanu finally stepped closer, his voice calm but firm. "Anna, don't measure yourself by the attention of a crowd. It's a dangerous weight, one that even Sandra knows." Anna looked at him, confused. Sandra lowered her eyes, her expression softening. "He's right," Sandra said. "People see me and think it's always easy, but they don't see the nights I go home alone. They don't see the times I feel invisible when I'm not on stage, when I'm just me. They see the actress, the name, but not the person who sometimes feels just as lost." The honesty in Sandra's voice struck Anna harder than any compliment ever could. For a moment, her jealousy wavered, replaced by a quiet realization. Yet still, another voice inside her whispered, what if this was just humility spoken from a place of security? What if Sandra could admit weakness because she had already won everything? Anna shook her head, her voice trembling. "But you have everything, the respect, the love, the career. How can I not feel small next to you?" Sandra stepped closer, her gaze steady but soft. "You think I have everything because you only see what shines under the lights. But no one's life is whole. No one's heart is without cracks." Before Anna could answer, Keanu spoke again, his tone carrying a quiet strength. "Comparison is a thief. It steals the joy you deserve. You don't need to be Sandra, and Sandra doesn't need to be you. Both of your lights matter, but only if you let them." Anna felt the words, but her heart still wrestled with them. The war inside her was not so easily won. Then, suddenly, the sound of applause roared from inside the hall. The next part of the event was beginning, and all three were expected back. Sandra gave a small nod, her expression unreadable, before turning toward the doors. "Come," she said softly. "The night isn't over yet." Anna hesitated but followed. Keanu stayed beside her, his presence steady, as if silently promising she would not have to face the storm alone. When they re-entered the hall, the lights felt harsher, the voices louder. The host called Sandra's name first, inviting her to the stage to speak. The crowd cheered, their voices rising like thunder. Sandra moved gracefully to the stage, her smile calm, her steps sure. Anna sat at her table, her heart pounding. Every cheer for Sandra felt like a weight pressing deeper into her chest. But then, to her shock, the host spoke her name next. "Please welcome Ana de Armas." Her breath caught. She had not expected it. The spotlight turned toward her and the crowd clapped politely, though not as loudly as for Sandra. She rose, her legs unsteady, and walked toward the stage. Keanu's voice whispered in her mind, "Your light is yours." But as she stood beside Sandra under the blinding lights, she felt the storm return. Sandra spoke first, graceful and confident, thanking everyone with words that flowed like water. When it was Anna's turn, her throat tightened. She began to speak, but her voice shook, and a wave of whispers spread through the crowd. Her hands trembled. She looked at Sandra, who smiled encouragingly, but the smile only deepened the ache inside her. Then, without warning, Anna's words broke open into something raw and unplanned. "I need to be honest," she said, her voice trembling but clear. "Tonight, I've been fighting with myself. I've been comparing, doubting, feeling small. I thought if I didn't say it, no one would know. But the truth is, it hurts." Gasps rippled through the audience. Sandra's eyes widened slightly, while Keanu, watching from his seat, leaned forward, his expression calm but focused. "I know many of you look at us and think we are always confident, always shining," Anna continued, her voice growing steadier. "But the truth is, we're human. We get jealous. We get afraid. We wonder if we're enough. Tonight, I felt all of that, but I'm learning maybe the real strength is not in pretending, but in admitting the truth." The hall was silent. Every eye was on her. The storm inside her was no longer hidden. It was out in the open, raw and trembling, but strangely freeing. Sandra stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on Anna's shoulder. "Thank you for saying what so many of us feel but are too afraid to admit." The crowd erupted in applause, not polite, not distant, but thunderous and real. And in that moment, Anna felt something shift inside her. But little did she know this was only the beginning. Jealousy had opened a door, but behind it waited tests of trust, moments of betrayal, and a truth from Keanu that would shake everything she thought she knew. Shadows behind the applause still echoed long after Anna left the stage. She walked back to her table, her legs shaking, but inside she felt lighter than she had in years. Her confession had spilled out without planning, yet instead of shame, she felt a strange relief. For the first time, she had not tried to be perfect. She had simply been real. Sandra returned to her table as well, her smile soft but unreadable. She gave Anna a nod of respect, as if silently saying you were brave. And for a moment, Anna wondered if the wall between them might finally be breaking. Keanu remained seated, his eyes following Anna closely. He did not clap louder than anyone else, he did not stand out. But when Anna caught his gaze, she saw something steady, something that told her she had not been alone on that stage. The night carried on. Speeches were made, music played, glasses clinked. Yet beneath the surface, whispers began to stir. Some people praised Anna's honesty, calling her words refreshing, even powerful. Others murmured doubts, questioning if she had revealed too much, if she had made herself look weak in front of the industry. Anna heard fragments of these whispers as she moved through the crowd. The praise lifted her, but the doubts stung deep. And slowly those doubts began to grow louder in her mind. Later, as the hall began to thin, Anna stepped outside again for air. The night was colder now, the streets quieter. She leaned against the wall, trying to steady her thoughts. Then behind her, voices drifted through the air, familiar voices. She turned her head slightly and froze. Just around the corner, Sandra stood with a group of people. Her voice was calm, but the words cut deep. It was brave, yes, Sandra was saying, but it was also risky. These events are about image. Spilling your feelings on stage can make people question if you're strong enough for the spotlight. The group nodded, murmuring agreement. Someone added, true, honesty is good, but weakness isn't what producers want to see. Anna's chest tightened, her breath catching. Her heart sank as the words pierced her. Sandra had praised her in front of everyone, but here in the shadows, she doubted her. For a moment, Anna wanted to step forward to confront her, but her legs would not move. Instead, she turned and slipped further into the night, her eyes burning. When Keanu found her a few minutes later, she was sitting alone on a bench, her hands trembling in her lap. Anna, he said softly, taking a seat beside her. She tried to stay calm, but the storm inside had grown too strong. I heard her, she whispered. I heard Sandra. She said I was weak. Keanu tilted his head, his voice calm. Are you sure that's what she said? Anna's voice cracked. I know what I heard. For a moment, Keanu stayed silent, his eyes thoughtful. Then he spoke quietly. Sometimes people say things out of fear, not cruelty, fear of how the world will judge. It doesn't always mean they don't respect you. Anna shook her head, her tears slipping free. But it felt real. It felt like all my worst fears came alive in her voice. Keanu looked at her, his expression filled with quiet strength. Then maybe this is the moment you decide. Do you let someone else's words define you, or do you decide who you are? His words lingered in the air, but they did not erase the wound. Anna wanted to believe him, but doubt twisted deeper. Later that night, as the event ended, Sandra approached her again, smiling as if nothing had happened. You were incredible tonight, she said warmly. Anna forced a smile, but inside she felt torn. Was Sandra's kindness real, or was it only for the cameras? The question gnawed at her, heavy and unrelenting. Keanu watched the two women carefully, his silence hiding thoughts he had not yet spoken. He knew more than he revealed, truths about both of them, truths that would soon come to light. Because what Anna did not know was that this night, filled with jealousy, honesty, and doubt, was only the surface of something far deeper. Behind the smiles and the whispers, a secret waited, one that would bind the three of them together in ways none of them expected. And when that secret surfaced, it would test loyalty, friendship, and love in ways that could either heal or destroy them. All the secret Keanu carried the days after the festival felt heavy for Anna. She replayed everything in her mind again and again. The applause, her confession, Sandra's kindness, and the words she had overheard in the shadows. Each memory twisted differently depending on how she looked at it. Sometimes she felt proud of her honesty. Other times she felt weak and foolish. And always, like a shadow at her side, she carried the question, was Sandra truly her friend, or was her kindness only a mask? Sandra, on the other hand, reached out often. She sent warm messages, invited Anna for coffee, even praised her interviews where people spoke about her vulnerability. On the surface, there was no reason to doubt her. Yet every smile, every word of kindness made Anna's chest ache. She remembered too clearly the whispers she had overheard, and she could not shake them off. Keanu remained quiet during those days, but his presence was constant. He checked on Anna gently, never pushing, never judging, only reminding her that she did not have to carry her storm alone. But Anna sensed something in him too, something unspoken, something heavy that he kept locked behind his calm eyes. It was one evening, about a week later, when everything began to unravel. Anna and Sandra were both invited to a private dinner hosted by a producer. Keanu was there as well, sitting quietly at the far end of the long table. The evening began smoothly with laughter and conversation, but beneath the surface, tension burned. Anna felt it every time her eyes met Sandra's. Halfway through the night, a journalist seated nearby asked a simple question. Anna, what you said at the festival about jealousy and self-doubt, it touched a lot of people. But some say it showed weakness. How do you feel about that now? The room grew quiet. Anna's chest tightened. She searched for words, but before she could answer, Sandra spoke. I think it was brave, Sandra said firmly, her voice carrying across the table. Bravery doesn't mean never being afraid. It means standing in fear and speaking anyway. Anna did that, and I respect her for it. The table nodded in agreement. The words should have comforted Anna. They should have healed the wound she carried. But instead, they reopened it because all she could hear in her mind was the whisper she had overheard. Spilling your feelings on stage can make people question if you're strong enough. She felt trapped, torn between Sandra's public support and her private doubts. The storm inside grew louder, and for the first time she let her voice break through. You didn't say that the other night, Anna said suddenly, her voice sharper than she intended. The table froze. Sandra blinked, startled. What do you mean? Anna's hands trembled under the table. I heard you, outside the hall. You told people I was risky, that I looked weak. A silence heavier than stone fell over the table. Sandra's face paled slightly, her lips parting in shock. Anna, But before she could finish, Keanu's voice cut through the silence. Enough! Everyone turned to him. His calm tone carried more weight than shouting ever could. He set down his glass slowly, his eyes steady on both women. There's something you both need to know, he said. Anna's heart pounded. Sandra sat rigid, her eyes fixed on him. Keanu took a deep breath, his voice quiet but certain. What you heard, Anna, it was true. Sandra did say those words, but she said them to me in fear. Not because she wanted to hurt you, but because she was afraid the industry would hurt you for showing your heart. She asked me if I thought you'd be all right, if honesty could survive in a world built on masks. She wasn't mocking you. She was protecting you in her own way. Anna's breath caught. Her mind spun. She looked at Sandra, whose eyes now shimmered with unshed tears. I didn't mean for you to hear it like that, Sandra whispered. I was scared. I've seen how cruel people can be in this business. I didn't want them to use your words against you. I should have said it to you directly, not behind your back. I'm sorry. The apology hit Anna hard. She felt shame burn through her chest, shame for her anger, shame for doubting, shame for letting jealousy blind her. But Keanu wasn't finished. He leaned forward, his eyes on both women, his voice heavier now. You both need to understand something. The reason I see through you, the reason I can say the words you're both afraid to face, is because I've lived in that same storm. I've carried the weight of being compared, of being told I wasn't enough, of being measured against others who always seemed brighter. I know what it feels like to be invisible even in the spotlight. I know what it's like to carry grief in silence while the world demands a smile. I know because I've lived it. The table was silent. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Anna's throat tightened. She had heard stories of Keanu's struggles, of his losses, but hearing it from his own lips carried a different weight. You think strength is about who shines brighter, Keanu continued, his voice softer now. But real strength is surviving the nights when you feel like nothing. It's standing up even when the world has broken you, and both of you, you have that strength. I see it. Anna felt tears slipping down her cheeks. Sandra's eyes glistened as well. The storm inside Anna loosened, replaced by something she hadn't felt in weeks, understanding. But even as the silence settled, a new tension stirred. Because while Keanu's words had healed part of the wound, they had also opened another door. If Keanu had carried such pain, what else had he hidden? What truths still lay buried beneath his calm smile? And how would those truths change everything between them? The night ended with polite goodbyes, but none of them left unchanged. Anna walked away with her heart heavy yet lighter, torn but healing. Sandra carried guilt, but also relief that the truth had surfaced. And Keanu walked away with shadows still clinging to him, secrets he had not yet revealed. The real test was still to come. Because in the days ahead, the bond between the three would be pushed to its breaking point. And only by facing the deepest wound would they discover if kindness could truly survive envy, fear, and betrayal. The light we carry the days after the dinner stretched like a quiet storm. Anna avoided Sandra at first, unsure how to face her after the confrontation. She replayed Keanu's words again and again, his calm voice revealing truths she had never considered. Sandra had spoken out of fear, not cruelty. But still, the sting remained. Anna could not shake the image of whispers in the dark, nor the ache of comparison that had lived in her heart for so long. Yet beneath the pain, something else stirred. Keanu's honesty about his own struggles had cracked open a door she had never seen before. If even he, calm and steady as stone, had carried invisible storms, then maybe she was not as alone as she had believed. One evening, Anna sat on her balcony, the city glowing beneath her. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Keanu. Just 5 words, meet me where it began. She knew instantly what he meant. The steps outside the hall where she had first confessed her storm to him under the night sky. Her heart raced as she slipped on a coat and went. When she arrived, Keanu was already there, sitting quietly, his gaze on the city lights. He turned as she approached, his face gentle. "You came," he said softly. Anna nodded, her throat tight. "Why here?" Keanu looked out over the city. "Because this is where you stopped pretending, where you let yourself be seen. Sometimes the place of our breaking is also the place of our healing." Anna swallowed hard. "But I don't feel healed. I still feel weak. I still feel less." Keanu shook his head. "Weakness is not what you think it is. It takes more strength to admit your pain than to hide it. You think you are less because you compare. But your worth isn't measured against Sandra or anyone." Before she could answer, footsteps echoed. Anna turned to see Sandra approaching. Her heart jumped, unsure whether to run or stay. Sandra stopped a few feet away, her eyes shimmering with something raw. "I knew I'd find you both here," she said quietly. The silence was thick, filled with everything unspoken between them. Finally, Sandra stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Anna, I need to say this again. I'm sorry. I was wrong to speak behind your back. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now that I only hurt you more. The truth is, I envied you too." Anna blinked, stunned. "Envied me?" Sandra nodded. "Yes, you're young, fearless, unafraid to show your heart. When you spoke on that stage, you did something I never had the courage to do. I envied that honesty. I envied your bravery. I was afraid the industry would crush you for it, but maybe I was more afraid it would prove how much I've hidden behind a mask." The words hit Anna like a tidal wave. For so long she had believed she was the only one drowning in envy, but now she saw the truth. Sandra too carried her own storm. Keanu stepped between them, his voice steady. "You see, both of you looked at each other and only saw what you lacked, but what you failed to see is how much you already had. Envy blinds us. Kindness heals us." Anna felt tears slip down her face. Sandra's eyes glistened too. Slowly, Sandra reached out her hand. "No more shadows," she whispered. "Let's stop letting the world turn us against each other." Anna hesitated, her chest tight, then placed her hand in Sandra's. The touch was soft, trembling, but real. Keanu watched them, a faint smile on his lips. "This is what the world needs to see," he said quietly. "Not masks, not perfection, but truth. Broken, honest, human truth. That's where real light lives." For a long moment, the three of them stood together under the night sky, the city glowing beneath them, their storm slowly quieting. But before the moment could settle, Keanu's voice grew heavier, more personal. "I need to tell you one more thing." Anna and Sandra looked at him, sensing the weight in his tone. Keanu's eyes lowered. "For years, I carried grief in silence. I lost people I loved, and the world expected me to smile, to keep moving. I compared myself, doubted myself, felt invisible even when the cameras followed me everywhere. And I let the pain harden me. But when I saw you too, when I saw your storms, I realized something. The only way to survive is not by hiding our scars, but by sharing them, by letting others carry the weight with us." His voice trembled slightly at the end, the first crack they had ever heard in his calm. Anna's chest ached and Sandra's eyes filled with tears. "You think I'm strong," Keanu whispered. "But the truth is, I'm only strong because I've learned to walk with others. Strength is never just ours. It's shared." Anna felt the truth sink deep, filling places she didn't even know were empty. Sandra reached for his hand, and together the three stood in silence, not as stars under a spotlight, but as humans bound by pain, envy, kindness, and resilience. For the first time, Anna felt her jealousy fade. She realized that Sandra's light had never dimmed hers, and hers had never dimmed Sandra's. Both had always been shining, just in different ways. And Keanu, standing between them, had shown them that light is never about being brighter than someone else. It is about shining together, so no one has to stand in the dark alone. As the night deepened, the three walked away side by side. The storms were not gone forever, but now they were no longer carrying them alone. And in that simple truth, there was peace. The story of jealousy had become a story of humility, kindness, and resilience. And in the end, that was the story worth telling.